The hero we all knew was coming has finally been announced over at Gen Con, and it was a big announcement. It was bigger than I thought it was going to be a little bit because they're also adding a fifth aspect, which is probably for me the most interesting thing about this announcement overall. There were some concerns I had with Deadpool, and they're there, and I'm still kind of concerned about how he's going to work for solo. I do worry about something in particular, and we'll talk about that when we go through the cards. Then we'll go through the new pool aspect, and break them all down and talk a bit about it. So let's go check out the announcement page. All right, here it is. Here's the announcement page. Really quick, I'll note that they did a inflate short to announce him, and they only spent about 11 minutes on him. I saw some people were upset that they didn't announce more moving forward, like the next campaign box. I think a lot of people were hoping for that still. They didn't announce anything like that, but I think that's okay. I'm not as bummed about that because we all knew Deadpool was coming. One thing you have to note is they made a comment about how Deadpool is coming with, I think they said 78 cards. This is a larger hero pack because it does have a fifth aspect in it that is playable by other heroes. So it's a pretty interesting release. So I think that surprised a lot of people and caught a lot of people off guard, me included. So let's just go through this and break this down a bit. So here's the whole intro. We're not going to get into this so much, but instead of 60 cards, his pack has 78. Do I need to zoom in at all? Or not? Nah, I guess that looks fine. So it has 78 on it instead of 60. And instead of him coming with aggression, justice, leadership, protection, whatever, he has a whole new aspect, the pool aspect. So this is playable with other heroes, which makes it pretty interesting and pretty cool that we'll now have that ability. Now, we've only seen a few of the pool cards, and I don't know how viable it's going to be a bit for solo, because some of the cards are pretty rough, but we'll dive into that in a little bit. So let's start with hero, Wade Wilson / Deadpool. First off, there's a lot of humor on the cards, which I appreciate. There's a lot of actually really good art and design on the cards, which is really cool. It's always great to see. So Deadpool comes in 200 thwart, 200 attack, 100 defense, or a 2/2/1 hero, which is pretty good. 5 hand size, 9 life, which is not bad, right? That's not bad. I was worrying the hit points are going to be lower at 7 or 8. 9's not terrible for what he's trying to do. So when you would be defeated, instead set your hit point dial to 1, change to alter ego form, and add 1 acceleration token to the main scheme. This is my biggest worry. This was the big rumor going around that this is how Deadpool was going to work, and I'm worried about this as a solo player. I'll be honest. Acceleration tokens on the main scheme is not a helpful or good thing overall. It makes it just a lot rougher and a lot harder. Generally speaking, when you're playing solo and the acceleration token does go onto the main scheme, like you're kind of like hurrying after that usually. So I have a little bit of worry with this. And luckily he has 9 hit points. We can put an endurance on him, right? Get him up to 12. Maybe if there's other cards out there too, eventually we can add it up a little bit more. But I know there was some rumors that it was going to be at like 6 hit points. I'm happy that at least it's at 9. So Wade Wilson's alter ego has an 8 recovery, which is nice. Like you basically exhaust him and you heal back to full health, right? That's a nice way of doing this. So that because on his hero card, right, when you get defeated, you change to alter ego form, and then you set your hit point dialed back down to 1. So that's nice. At least that all you have to do is exhaust Wade Wilson, pop back up to hero side, go back to what you were doing. So one thing you can do is break the 4th wall, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for a Deadpool event, and add it to your hand. This is also kind of nice, right? This is a nice way of doing this, that you're stuck with a card that you really don't like. Don't worry about it, right? You just move on. You just move on with a card that you want from the Deadpool deck. So he's a mercenary and mutant, and it makes a joke about it, that sometimes he's a mutant, sometimes not, depends on who you ask. That's fine. And then it does Deadpool, Corpse, and X-Force as the traits on this. So let's get into that in a second. So they talk about that he can break the 4th wall, all that fun stuff, that he can recover from his injuries with a massive 8 recovery. He'll get a lot of use of the big recovery since his hero ability prevents him from being defeated, leaving with just 1 hit point whenever he be taken out. That's right. Even when you try to get rid of him, you can, and whatever. Okay. So then they have exhausting personality. It's a 0 cost event. Choose 1 action. You either place 1 acceleration token on the main scheme or stun and confuse the villain, or you exhaust the player's identity. That player draws 1 card for each acceleration token on the main scheme. I don't know how often I would do that top one. I'll be completely honest. That top one doesn't seem great. Now if you're never planning to die with Deadpool, it's not terrible, right? Like it's a fairly easy way. to stun and confuse the villain, but I don't know. That still seems like a rough trade-off to me. Now, exhausting a player's identity, a player draws one card for each acceleration token. Okay, I mean, if there's just one on there, you would just be getting rid of a card to draw a new one. The idea really does seem like they want you to have a ton of acceleration tokens on, which okay, that's fine, I guess. We'll get into that in a second. But Deadpool doesn't care about that. Oh, okay. And Montage. So Montage is a resource generator. This card generates one additional wild resource for each acceleration token on the main scheme, up to a maximum of 3. So this could be a 4 resource generator. Again, the thought that there would be 3 acceleration tokens on, like when you're playing solo, is really hard for me to wrap my head around, that like I would actually be able to succeed doing that. This would have a scaling effect depending on the number of acceleration tokens in the main scheme. And his best buddy Cable also gets stronger for each token on the scheme, which okay. 3 1 2 3 is an okay stat line, but Cable gets a +1/+1 for each acceleration token on the main scheme, up to a maximum of 3 thwart and 3 attack. Or I'm sorry, +3 thwart and +3 attack. So that'd be like 3 acceleration tokens right on there. Again, it's a lot of acceleration tokens for a solo player to go through, but it would get him up to a 4 attack, which is pretty strong, right? You can make Cable pretty interesting there. If you're worried about all that threat, you just have to tell the villain that it ain't over till it's over. 1 cost upgrade attached to the main scheme. Increase the target threat value of attached scheme by 2 for each acceleration token on. This is going to be the balancing effect and how it works. And this card helps that. I mean, it definitely helps a lot. There's going to be a really interesting balance of how you're going to have to play Deadpool with focusing a lot on the main threat, like a lot. So this is nice that they have this, that it ain't over. Attached to the main scheme, increase the target threat value of attached scheme by 2 for each acceleration token on it. So hypothetically, right, you have 3 acceleration tokens on it on a 10 threat main scheme, it would go up to 16 threat, right, in total. Now, if you weren't playing the pool aspect, you were playing a justice aspect, and you were putting the space van out there that adds 4 threat there, I mean, like now it's up to 20, so like that's pretty well balanced. So this is going to be a card that I feel like you're going to want to mulligan hard as a solo player, going to want to mulligan pretty hard to get. So at least they added something in there to even out a little bit. So it's an interesting card. But again, that's going to be a card that we have to get out there pretty quickly, I think. All right, so now for this next section, since Deadpool doesn't need much to worry about with being defeated, much of his kit lets him be reckless or strategic with his hit points. This is where this kit's going to get really interesting, and I don't know it's going to be really good or really tough to deal with. But for example, maximum effort, a 0 cost event, take any amount of damage up to your remaining hit points, deal an equal amount of damage to an enemy. Now again, if he starts with, 9, you put endurance on. So let's say you get him to full life at 12, right? This could be a 0 for 11, right? If you're doing a final push at the end, this can be really strong and really good. This could be a great attack to use, but it really works well, I think, as that final push card to make some massive damage happen. But obviously that's a lot of damage. Yoo-hoo is the same as that idea. This is the thwart one. Sorry. 1 cost event, take any amount of damage up to the remaining hit points, remove an equal amount of threat from a scheme. Well, it is the same amount idea, just as threat removal, right? Interesting. It's interesting that it costs 1 too on top of it. Again, I think it's going to be hard to balance this because we're going to need to figure out ways to heal up Deadpool without him just dying all the time. Because again, getting too many acceleration tokens is not going to be great. So then let him deal damage to himself, deal damage to remove threat respectively, while this card is fire, which this, by the way, is phenomenal card art. Whoever did this, Andrea and Laura, it looks like, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal card art. So response, after your turn ends, if this card is in your hand, take 1 damage. Interesting. Deal X damage to an enemy. X is the amount of damage you have sustained. So what's cool about the idea of this, right, is that you could do maximum effort, play, let's say you want to do 10 damage, right? So 0 for 10 damage, plus then, nope, where is it? The card is fire. We'll do another 3 for 10 damage. Right. And it's just one more thing you have to keep track of, like how much damage you sustain, or if you want to do some thwart and some other damage, or whatever it works out to be. Right. But it's an interesting way that you could essentially do like 20 damage for 3 costs and 2 cards, essentially. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat way of doing it. There's probably going to be 2 of these in there, maybe 1, but probably 2, because this is card number 14. And I think it was, what was it? It Ain't Over was 13, right? Yeah, It Ain't Over was 13. So it looks like one or two of these cards in there. Get stronger as your hit points get lower. And I guess this is also, it doesn't have to be in one turn, right? Like if however much, I take that back. I read the wording wrong a little bit. It's how much you have sustained, not sustained that round or that phase. So it's however much damage you have taken in general you can do. So again, if you had 12 life because of endurance, right? Yeah, 12 life with endurance, and you sustain down them. You only have 1 hit point left. This would be a 3, 4, 11 card. Pretty good. Okay, cool. He also has Arm to the Teeth, which is a 2-cost upgrade. After you play Arm to the Teeth, search your collection for 1 weapon upgrade from any aspect and attach it face down here. And then exhaust Arm to the Teeth and swap this card, or I'm sorry, the exhaust Armed to the Teeth. Swap the card attached here with a weapon upgrade you control, which is kind of interesting to be able to go back and forth with that. So that you can go find any weapon he needs at any time and swap it out with one of his trusty katanas. So 2-cost upgrade. I'm assuming we'll get 2 of these. Makes the most sense. This is card number 11. Again, 13 was It Ain't Over, so 2 katanas would make sense. Exhaust Deadpool's katanas. Take 1 damage, deal 2 damage to an enemy. This attack gains piercing. Okay, like it's fine. It's not a great card. The piercing is really nice, though, especially as we've seen more and more tough. The piercing is very good. If you want him to take some damage because you need the other cards to get more powerful, that works. And I assume there's 2 because it is swap it with one of his trusty katanas. Okay, cool. So that's everything we know about Deadpool right now, right? And just I wanna go through his cards. So Cable is gonna be 1 for 2. Exhausting Personality is 2. Montage is 8. That's Cable is 1. It Ain't Over was 13. Maximum Effort is 3. So then we know that there's only 1 of these cards in there, which is interesting. That's 3, 6. So we might get 3, 4, 5 being the attack. 6, 7, 8 will be those. No, we have a Montage is 8. So only 2 thwart cards. And Arm to the Teeth will be 10. Katanas would be probably 11 and 12. That's interesting. Yeah, some interesting stuff. We'll see what it is. But we've seen most of the cards then at that point. So anyway, that's Deadpool. With everything with Deadpool. Now let's look at the pool aspect, right? The Deadpool aspect. So themed around Deadpool Corpse, this aspect is all about high risk, high reward gameplay. Pool allies like Dogpool and Headpool don't take any consequential damage when they attack or thwart because they don't care about consequences, but they also come in with acceleration and amplify tokens. And this is kind of my big worry again with this. If you're already putting acceleration tokens on the main scheme, I don't know how Dogpool works great for your hero, right? Realistically, it's a 3-cost ally, 0, 1, 4. Retaliate 1 comes in with toughness. All right, so you get Retaliate, that's cool. When defeated, you deal 1 damage to an enemy, that's cool. But the acceleration icon is really rough. I mean, that's a really rough trade-off for solo play. And then on top of that, Headpool, which is interesting, a 3-cost ally, 2, 1, 1, only has 1 life. After Headpool attacks and damages a minion, that minion attacks another enemy of your choice, which is interesting, right? It's an interesting way of doing it. I think that's pretty cool. It does add an amplify icon, which again can be rough, though a lot of times you can deal with that type of stuff. Okay, so, but that's okay because other pool cards like Barely a Scratch and I Got This get bonuses when those icons are in play. And this is their way of they're going to try to balance it that you get a lot of benefits. So Barely a Scratch is a 0-cost event. When you would take any mad damage from an attack, prevent 1 of that damage for each of these basically bad things in play, right? So there's a bunch of these in play. You take less damage. Then on top of this, I Got This, a 1-cost event, which also I just love this art. If the following icons are on 1 or more cards in play, you get to do these things, right? So you would get to deal 3 damage to an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme, ready an ally you control, or draw a card. If there's a lot of bad things going out there, that's not terrible. Not every pool card has you living dangerously, though, which is a player side scheme. Victory 0. Oh, I'm sorry. 0 cost. 3 removal. 3 threat removal, or you have to remove 3 threat. Each identity gets +2 hand size. Pretty cool, but it comes in with 1 of each bad icon. I don't know if I like that trade-off. I don't know if that's a solid trade-off or not. That could be rough. Some of them are improved versions of existing cards, such as Cut Upper instead of Uppercut, right? So 3-cost event, deal 5 damage to an enemy, stun that enemy, which is pretty nice, right? Uppercut was always kind of not mocked, but made fun of. Now that you can stun the enemy, that's pretty solid, right? That's pretty solid. And then get Ragey instead of ready. Ready an ally. That ally gets +1 attack until the end of the phase. Again, a stronger version of get ready, which is pretty cool to see. Though I will say that this has max 1 per deck, as does get ready. It only has max 1 per deck, which is not bad, but if you really need to get that card, it could be a little rough. Not my responsibility instead of great responsibility. 0 cost event. It's just an interrupt, not a hero interrupt. When any amount of threat would be placed on a scheme, you or your allies take it as damage instead. All right. So when any amount of threat would be placed on a scheme, you or your allies takes it as damage. Okay, pretty cool. Again, if you're playing Deadpool, this is a little more helpful because you want to take some damage. That's fair. And then let's see, with the pool aspect, you can get a copy of certain heroes' healing factor. So 3 cost upgrade, healing factor. After the player phase begins, exhaust healing factor, heal 2 damage from your identity. This is going to be one of the, like, again, another top card that I feel like as a solo player, if you're playing the pool aspect, you're going to need this card in play for Deadpool because he needs the heal. He absolutely needs the heal. So I could see this card definitely being in there. But again, overall with pool or the pool deck or the pool aspect, I think good card. Definitely a good card and be good to have out there. And if you aren't able to use the pull aspect to secure victory in your first attempt, well, you just gotta get good. So it's a 2 cost upgrade. Reduce the cost to play get good by 2 if you did not win your previous game of Marvel Champions. When a player would be defeated, they set their hit point dial to 1 and change their alter ego form instead and remove this card from the game, right? So it's essentially it's Deadpool's mechanic. And it's a little bit just a joke to make it easier and whatever, but you could also just do that as well. So there are lots more pool cards in the pack, including a whole bunch of extra cards outside Deadpool's pre-built deck, giving you loads of customization options to try out. And of course, you can always build a Deadpool deck with one of the other 4 aspects, but why would you want to do that? All right, so Crisis of Infinite Deadpools. As ridiculous as it may seem, the pool aspect really is the game's 5th aspect. This means that any hero can make use of it, including those who use cards from multiple aspects in their decks, which does make some things pretty interesting with that. However, there's a catch. When you play a game of Marvel Champions, if at least one player is using the pool aspect, then a copy of Crisis Infinite Deadpools is shuffled in the encounter deck. Okay. The thing is, like, I'm interested in seeing what the rest of the Deadpool or the pool deck is. Like, it already seems kind of like balanced and rough, so it's gonna be kind of interesting with this. So really quick, I realized I didn't actually show Crisis of Infinite Deadpools with my first recording, so I'm looking back at it now. Reveal the set aside Deadpool minion and Dreadful Deed side scheme. Shuffle the rest of the side or the set aside Dreadpool encounter set into the encounter deck. Remove this card from the game, right? So it's almost kind of like a Shadow of the Past type thing that's got going on. So Dreadpool is the one that'd be coming in, as well as Dreadful Deeds, right? So these two would come in, and then you shuffle in the other cards that were in there. I didn't really note that, and I think I like kind of skipped over that when I was first doing this video. So I think I was a little confused at first how this got into there, but that's how. Okay, back to the other video. Sorry about that. If this card is revealed, then Dreadpool and his Dreadful Deeds come into play. Dreadpool has some nasty tricks up his sleeve, such as anti-regeneration ray or the ability to poolize your enemies. Not to mention he's really hard to get rid of, which reminds us of someone else. We're sure it's just a coincidence. So Dreadpool is a 2/2/3. Dreadpool engages the first player. When defeated, deal Dreadpool to the player who defeated him as a face-down encounter card, which is rough. And Dreadful Deeds, place 2 threat here for each player who controls one or more pool pink cards right with an acceleration token on it. Or not acceleration, an amplify token on it, which is also rough. An anti-regeneration, 1 cost attack attached to Dreadpool, otherwise attached to the villain. When attached character attacks a non-villain character, treat the attack character's text box as if it were blank except for traits until the end of the attack. Spend 1 of each resource, attach this card to your identity instead, right? And then poolize, Dreadpool attachment, treat attached ally as a pool minion with a blank text box. Attached minion scheme is equal to its printed thwart, and it does not take consequential damage. Attach to the ally with the highest cost without poolize attached. Otherwise, this card gains surge. Right? So this basically just makes them of minion now. So that's interesting that they're balancing it that way and getting into that. I think that's I don't know. We'll have to see. I there's nothing in the pool deck that we've seen so far that makes me go, wow, this is a really kind of strong aspect that can really do a lot more than other stuff. It's a little bit stronger, obviously, but you can only put one of each card in it, which limits it a bit. So I don't know. It's weird. It's not weird, but it's interesting to decide to balance this with putting in this other aspect or this other encounter set that you have to put in. I think that it makes it, I don't know. We'll have to see what the pool cards are. I feel like this is like almost a little too hard on people, but maybe it's not. Maybe it'll be fine. So, and the last thing they talk about with the release of the Deadpool pack, the entirety of the next evolution wave for Marvel Champions will be completed, and to celebrate this occasion, they're doing the next OP kit, which once again, OP they're doing a bunch of stuff with 3 awesome promos, including alternate art promo for one of the waves here, or one of the wave's heroes. It also comes with a bunch of acceleration tokens themed as Deadpool, so you got plenty of work they get plenty of work when you're playing as him. Releases the same time as Deadpool and X23, and it will be done through the kit or eBay, whatever you can actually do. So there you have it. Deadpool is officially in the game. Whether you want to take that merc with the Mounts wacky cards for a spin or try out the new pool aspect, this hero pack is a must-have for any fan of Marvel Champions, the card game. And there's a ton of stuff in the pack to be able to show off, like all those extra pool cards, because some of us didn't want to spoil all of it. Look forward to Deadpool joining your team or replacing it when Deadpool Hero Pack arrives in November. All right, so let's talk about my overall thoughts on Deadpool. There's good and bad, right? There's good and bad. Let's start with the bad, right? Let's start with the bad. So my initial concern before this was announced was he going to be like the basic ally where when he dies, he gets his life back or whatever, and then you put an acceleration token on the main scheme. And that is what they're going to do. And I think that is going to be a really hard challenge for solo players. I think that's going to add a lot of difficulty to the game, generally speaking, because unless he gets a card that like removes acceleration tokens off or something, it's going to be really rough to deal with for like a whole game. So you're going to have to really time that out and figure that out. Acceleration icons, I think for a multiplayer game isn't nearly as bad. But for solo gameplay, this is really hard. I don't know if I will ever really have 3 out there to balance it. Or not to balance it, but 3 out there to take the maximum amount of resource generators or cable potential or whatever, right? I can't picture it yet. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. We'll see when he actually comes out, but I can't picture it yet. That was my biggest fear. The fear is still there, but it has been alleviated some with, with him having a little bit more life than I thought he was. Again, I thought he was going to have a very low amount of health. And I think It Ain't Over is pretty nice. Unless the main scheme pops, then you're going to kind of be scrambling a little bit. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully there's 2 of those in there so that you can deal with that. But there is some balancing there, and it's alleviated a little bit, right? That was my biggest concern going into this, was that it's still there. Now, when we actually get Deadpool in hand, maybe that's not going to be an issue, right? Maybe Deadpool's going to be fine to play, and it's going to be all great and whatever. As far as actual good, right? Actually, wait. One more thing about the bad with just the pool side of things. There's a lot of cards we haven't seen. And what we've seen so far, like thinking about using the pool aspect is just like, I don't know. Like I'll have to play it against like easy villains, like any tough villain. I don't see how this is going to work. I can't picture it yet how it'll work. But we haven't seen that many pool cards yet, right? Like that's the most important thing. We haven't seen that many pool cards yet. So these might be the worst ones and the rest of them are just like really good or whatever, right? Like it doesn't matter. And I don't want to say these cards are bad by any means. It's just they have some strong negative effects to them that I think has some concern for me. So that's all the bad things, right? The bad things I would say. As far as good things, I think it's safe to say Tony has done he's done a phenomenal job with this cycle. He really has. Now, again, we don't have the game in hand, so we don't exactly know. But just from the general look test, everything looks good, right? It looks solid. I think some of the heroes are pretty strong overall, and we'll do a video later on talking about each hero and my hypeness for each one once I settle down from Deadpool and recollect my thoughts. But I think overall, I don't think there was ever concern with Tony, but if there was, hopefully it's alleviated now, right? Tony has done a really good job thinking outside the box. Tony has done a really good job with a lot of this design, not just heroes, but also with villains, right? With mods, whatever, right? He's done a very, very good job. And that's why, from what we've seen so far, even though I do have concerns with the pool aspect, I'm willing to give it a fair shot because he's done really well with Mojo, I thought, and everything else in this cycle has looked pretty good. Again, we'll see once we actually get on the table how it is, but I don't have many concerns with what he's done. So honestly, kudos to him. He's done a phenomenal job with this, and I'm really excited to see the future of this game with Tony. I really am. I think overall, the biggest thing Deadpool has done for us, and I should mention that I'm not like a Deadpool fan, so like the hero itself, I was just kind of like whatever about. Like I didn't care. I don't get excited about Deadpool the hero, but as far as this hero and playing Deadpool, except for the few issues I mentioned, I think it'll be an interesting balance, right? I do think it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be tough. I think against hard villains, I don't know how well Deadpool will work. Against like Ronin or Loki or Venom Goblin, I don't know. Maybe he does all right because he can't die and we don't have to worry about that as much. But the acceleration tokens on Ronin's main scheme, I don't even want to think about that right now. So I get a little worried about that. But overall, what's the most important thing we look for in Marvel Champions, or at least I look for, is a hero fun and is a hero unique? And I think it's safe to say Deadpool is going to check both those boxes off. I do think Deadpool will be fun, even for a hero that I don't care about, right? Do I see myself playing Deadpool? Yeah, absolutely. I think Deadpool will be fun to play. Will he make it, will he last a very long time in a hero that I regularly play? I don't know, maybe. We'll see. As far as uniqueness, right, and a unique way of playing the game, yeah, even without the pool announcement, right, the fifth aspect, this is a solid announcement. This is a solid hero pack overall. I think that's fair to say. Now, as far as the pool aspect of things, I think the biggest thing from that is not necessarily the cards they've done, but what this does for the future of the game, right? It shows, because for those that don't know, there was supposed to be a fifth aspect in Marvel Champions when it was first announced called Determination, I believe, but they didn't do it for whatever reason. There's rumors and small talk and whatever, but I don't know. Whatever the reason is, doesn't really matter. There was supposed to be one and there wasn't. And it was always kind of rumored, would Determination, I think it was called Determination, would that ever make a comeback? And it has, right? What's the most interesting thing about this fifth aspect is that it is going to evolve and grow the game for the future, right? The biggest thing that we talk about is, what does the future of this game look like moving forward, right? Does it have the legs to keep going for year over year over year? Because they're running out of like the A tier heroes, right? You can argue that they are. I still think they have a lot left, but you can argue that we're getting to like the last few cycles. Okay, that's fine. The fact that they're willing to make a fifth aspect, and they're using that aspect to improve upon, like, not bad cards, but cards that aren't used as much, I think is really interesting and really cool. I think it's really fun that they're doing that, and I really hope that they can continue to support the pool aspect. I hope they continue to put more cards in there, and if they do another aspect that addresses some issues with older heroes, I think that's really cool. I think it opens up so much for the future of this game, and honestly, it has me excited, right? It has me excited for the future of this game, because a lot of us were saying, okay, you know, with Justice, like we can almost do everything with Justice. With Protection, we could almost do everything. Like, all the aspects are getting to a point where like almost every aspect can do a little bit of everything, right? Now, whatever it was supposed to be, like aggression is supposed to be attacking, let's say, it's very, very good at attacking, but it could do almost a little bit of everything else. So what's the future going to be for the aspect cards? Because slowly you're just going to meld all the aspects and they're going to be like indistinguishable, right? It's going to be just which color do you feel like playing. Adding that fifth aspect changes a lot of things. It changes a lot of things and improves a lot of things. So I have to say, while there are, again, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna say that there are some hesitations, there are some worries I have with Deadpool as a hero. There's some hesitations and worry I have with the fifth aspect and how that's gonna work for solo play. But I think it's easy for me to say that the positives outweigh those negatives by a lot, right? By a lot. I am excited for a cycle that seems top to bottom unique and fun. Right, every single hero so far has seemed unique and fun. Some more so than others. Some heroes I'm not as hyped for, but overall, unique and fun. And then finally, the fact that they're doing a fifth aspect, I think is really, really good for the longevity of the game overall. That's, to me, that was the biggest part of this announcement, was really that fifth aspect. I think that's huge. I think it's really important for the game, and this does leave up the door open for a sixth or seventh aspect, like down the road, like not anytime soon, but like way down the road. That leaves that door open, which is awesome, right? It's awesome that this game can do so much more moving forward. So that's really cool to see. So anyway, that's all my thoughts. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff. Leave a comment down below. I want to know your thoughts about Deadpool, right? What do you like? What do you not like? All that fun stuff. How do you see it working for Solo? Maybe I'm completely off base. Maybe you think that he's going to be awesome for Solo. I'm just missing something. Let me know down in the comments. And then same with the pool aspect. Let me know your thoughts about that aspect as well. I'm really excited to read those. See you all next time.